Welcome, welcome, welcome to Black Jewel Tarot. Another amazing episode 13th. We're going to be dealing with the Justice card. And Elle, take it over.
What is Errol, your producer, Laura Nicole Haldane? I'm coming again to remind you to go ahead and book your appointment with the link in the description for Recovery Life Coaching with Reverend Tiny. We're here again reminding you again that an opportunity is available and open and ready for you to step on in. Get your life together with Recovery Life Coaching with Reverend Tiny. All right, here we go. Stepping into our first segment, as you know, justice. Okay. Now, I don't know how this is going to go, but I feel like it's going to have some layers to it because we're talking about the 50 years of hip hop, the crack epidemic, and the trauma left behind. So, that in relationship to justice, I know we're going to be talking about some good stuff today. So, take us away, Reverend Tyler. Tiny.
You know, that's a good opening because, like you said, it's an intricate part of American society with the justice not being in our behalf, not being balanced, not having equal rights, equality, or anything in the whole epidemic from pre and post slave trade. So we have to go all the way back from colonialization, where
We done both.
it just we done went all the way back. We done forgot about the tarot. But what tarot brings, I feel like when I'm seeing this red, it's the blood of our people is going to be eradicated. We're gonna get vindication somewhere with this justice. It's going to be balanced. It just has to, and that's what my spirit is speaking to me right now. When I seen this, I seen all of the loss of loved ones, unnecessary, just unnecessary. Karmic justice, legal justice. You know, the truth and honesty has to be told about America and their story and what they stole.
Hmm.
A whole legacy of lives have been lost. And you know, it seems when it comes to justice, is being able to look that monster, that lion, and tame, tame it. And this really hits home because when you talk about the crack epidemic and the injustices that our people has faced, unbeknown, like we don't bring drugs into our community. We don't have the helicopters and the boats to do that. And how can we really bring in justice when we don't even have the power? Some of us don't even have the power to choose where we live at, the power to choose our food that we eat. Wow, it seems like, I started off topic where I just went in with not even explaining the tarot and what the tarot brings as numerology being 11. 11 is a master number. It's a sign. It's a number to embrace new beginnings in the inner wisdom in the spiritual journey. And then we have Neptune, and Neptune is associated with Pisces and Aquarius. And Pisces is a creative energy, and Aquarius, I love my Aquarius because it's a leadership. They have leadership qualities and they have a vision and guidance. And psychic energy is L, so I love the number 11, that master number. And so to come back to the justice card and how it plays in the major arcana, as we looked at the hermit and then we looked at the wheel of fortune. That's the wheel of fortune turning in your favor and your destiny favor to bring about that justice, right? It's a cycle and there's levels. And now I see us in the crack epidemic, and what it's left behind is these traumas and these groups and subgroups of people like grandmothers, mothers, sons and daughters, that we have to find justice. And whether we find it for ourselves or as in a community as a whole, it has to be given, and we have to have our just delight, because we can no longer live in the past and just taking anything from the injustice system, right? And it's so profound now that I'm thinking about how Kendrick Lamar united the Bloods and the Crip, where on a social thing they're always talking about we're fighting each other and we're against each other. And the whole US is a big ass gang. So now you want to rain down on the Bloods and Crips when originally the gangs were put in the communities to protect the women and the children and the elderly. And true enough, there is some battles, but you know what? There's always war. So I don't like to be derogatory or defame the gangs, right? Because everything has its place. And so I salute Kendrick Lamar with bringing, Compton together, and the gang leaders and whoever else that wants to unite for Black power. Let's stand in our strength and bring about justice for our civilization and our rights of humanity because it was taken. That's what I'm going to say about that. And how justice served for me is when I did, I had to learn how to navigate that justice system. And I'm talking about the criminal system, where it was like, I ain't do that and I ain't getting ready to do no time for nothing I ain't did. So keeping my nose clean to how it said jail's institution and death. And I saving grace that I never had to face any of those things because I had integrity. Whatever I was doing, I wasn't just getting ready to let myself go down on my family behind some bullshit. So thank God I've never been to jail and I never did, horrible things. And that I've always been a praying person, petitioning and lamenting that I wanted to change and I wanted a better life for everybody that's involved. And it takes more than one person. And I had good people in my life to lead me astray from the badness, lead me astray from from the people that I was dealing with in that time. And I had a lot of support, so I'm giving my shots out and my flowers to those people, that were there when I was a child, like my Aunt Rachel. Her birthday's today. And everybody needs a TT that talks straight to them. And I remember, I'm going to tell this story. I have my oldest son. And he went and told Aunt Rachel that I did something, and she slapped the dog mess out of me. I seen stars and lights, and I didn't deserve it. But I knew I better treated my son better. And I don't even know what had happened, but I know that slap was so severe that I don't think I ever whooped him again. I don't think like he had everything he wanted. And I'm saying that, yeah, that was kind of harsh. But we as women are not standing in our place. Like we're the grandmamas and the big mamas. And that's what I had. My Aunt Joanne she was nothing. She was fierce. And I'm not saying that lightly. We need women that are going to stand for the good for our children, stand for the good of our men. And when our men is wrong, they being talked to and dealt with. And the women, they being talked to and dealt with. And I was dealt with on many levels. And now I'm so grateful because I know how to deal with people on their level. And I don't have to be ignorant or, derogatory or any of that. Leave people with their humanity, but know that I'm not nothing to be messed with, and standing in that ground. And what that really taught me during that whole era, to just stay true to who I am. And if somebody's not giving me justice, be my own justice for myself. And I named my baby son, Justice. So that word has a lot of heartfelt for me, because it was like, I didn't abort you, and you're going to stand for something, and you're going to be somebody. You're going to have a good identity, integrity, and good characteristic, and all these things that justice brings about. I wanted for him. How he's living his life. He's grown now, but I definitely raised him to be the little boy in the church reading the Bible and giving talks. And I can say it, I raised him to be a Jehovah's Witness. It didn't turn out that way, but I gave him justice by giving him something to go by, a moral compass, right? He could still read. You met him, he could still tell you scriptures. So I wanted to instill good principles in him. And that's what, for whatever it's worth, the Bible is a book of information before living earth. And if you use a little bit of it, you got something to work with. And so I'm grateful for my Christian inheritance that I received, because it gave me a moral compass. And it really, some of them scriptures saved my life. I'd be crying at night, or, boo-hooing. And then when I pulled the light up out of me, it's when my wheel of fortune really changed. Gave me the power and the strength to move on. And as we deal with that in the major arcana, is really seeing how our lives play, where we need justice or where we need to give justice, and that balancing, the scales. Reminds me of the Libra sign. Um, so justice, yes, for
Curious about,
justice. I didn't.
yeah, I'm curious about how that relates to the Wheel of Fortune. I know we just came out of, you know, the episode where we talked about the Wheel of Fortune. Of course, I'll go into, asking a question about the Fool's Journey, but I'm curious about, as we step out of the Wheel of Fortune and we step into justice, what is that pathway? What is that connecting pathway from Wheel of Fortune to justice?
Well, Wheel of Fortune has, destiny, walking in your path, and it's karmic. So it comes in as you're going to receive justice as you did good, or you're going to see justice as you did bad, because you reap what you sow. So the justice are like, all the cards are two-sided, right? It's all about reaping what you sowed. The injustice and the karmic, being dishonest and corruption, losing my train of thought. The lack of accountability that we could show, you're gonna receive your justice. We all reap what we sow, which is karmic. So that's how it really serves when we go through the major arcana. All these archetypes are things that we experience through the fool's journey. And we're all going to experience it. We're all going to meet these archetypes in our life.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I did meet, mention. Go ahead.
But then where does the Fool's Journey, what is this arrival at justice for the fool, or for us as the fool?
I would say that getting what we deserve, that's how it
Mm.
arrives.
Okay.
And it seems very simple and simplistic to me in life, as the wheel of church, wheel of fortune. I'm going to say tarot for some reason. How that operates and how we navigate through life. Our justice is served is how we show up in life. So you can show up with some fuck shit, your justice is gonna be served. You can show up with your
Mm.
integrity and dignity intact, and doing right for others, and helping the old lady cross the street, and being kind to the children, and giving to charity. That's what I
How do
think.
we know? Yeah, how do we know when we done it right or wrong?
Your life will show. You either have a chaotic life, or you'll have a peaceful life. And then that's how you want to interpret your life. Like, if you want to be chaotic and get with people, and snap your neck and all of that, that's you. It's really individual. Like you said, it's layers to it. Is how are you showing up, and how do you want to show up as? And that's why it brings me back to that Enneagram class that Doc teaches, Dr. Rashawn. And I'll say she's famous for, because she lays it down on how people are showing up, and how we're showing up as individuals, and how what we think we're giving off opposed to what we are giving off in that persona, right? So we're going to be served whether we right or wrong. We're going to get our just due.
Mm. So coming into the justice, it's not about right or wrong. It's a very neutral arrival to see and determine what the outcome is going to be.
I would agree.
Fascinating.
I really,
Interesting. So it's
I really
interesting to
think.
be in a fool's journey and to come into that. You get an opportunity to really, I mean, I guess this is a stage of reflection. Not just reflection, but you get to see what is reflected back to you, or see a reflection of your journey reflected back to you.
I think I think you have it right because it's what we bring to the table, and are we willing to look at it? Like reflecting.
Mm.
Our justice is what we give.
Mm.
That's how it's reciprocated. What did you do? Look, it seems for me, it's like when you meet your maker and they talk about there's a book of life and they open the book of life and you're judged on the book of life. So the book of life is
Mm.
all the things that you went through. So let's say it is the fool's journey, and how did you show up? Did you use your magic for badness or dishonesty or killing? Did you use your emperor or your empress power to stand in integrity?
Mm.
Even with the hermit, how was you using that time to seek out your innermost knowing and your wisdom and your spirituality? Like all of these things is a time of reflection, and it's karmic. You reap what you sow. Justice is karmic. If you do good, you get good. If you do bad, you get bad. And it's really simplistic. It's nothing hard about it. And then, I'm a segue because we talked about the wheel of fortune. We talked about the justice. But the next is the hangman, which is a different perspective. So after you've reaped what you sowed, the next card is really reflection. It's the hangman. And we'll get into that in our next episode and how that plays an integral part in the fool's journey.
Mm. Interesting. I love how everything sort of connects. I mean, it really is like it's the soul's journey,
It
and it's really
is.
making sense.
It's the dots are being put into place. And what I really experienced through the tarot be experienced through the tarot is these archetypes is how we show up at different phases in our life. The wheel of fortune, sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, right? It's putting the dots in place and then walking the line after you see it, because some of us are not aware of archetypes and how we show up in personas, and we just showing up because that's life, right? That's been our life in this white man's world where we're just struggling to get by. We don't have no time to reflect. We trying to eat. Don't let you have 4 or 5 kids, right? That's survival mode where we don't even get a chance to look at our lives, how we showing up and what are we doing, and da 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 da. I'm sorry.
Hmm. I
I
like that because it's non-linear also.
exactly.
Of course, it's steps, but just because I left the hermit stage does not mean that I'm gonna head directly into the wheel of fortune.
No,
Maybe I need maybe I
that's
need to go to another step before I get there. Yeah.
and we might
Or
jump
maybe when I hit, yeah, exactly.
That's true. That's why it's important to learn the tarot, so you could do a spread and see where you're at and how you showing up, because the tarot will reveal that. It's definitely a tool
Mm.
of a life assistance tool.
Mm. I love that. Do you have any other thing that you want to add? Because I'm anxious to just go ahead and plug you as a tarot reader because you're absolutely right. This is a self-reflective journey, and this is an opportunity to reflect back to yourself what it is that some things you can't see.
That part. And with that being said, let's close out.
Yeah, all right. Well, before we close out, I want to in the description below with the link for Calendly. Go ahead and book your appointment. We talked about what the importance of having a tarot reading is, so you can learn more about where you are in your journey, and you can get that self reflection, um, essentially reflected back onto you. There's some things that we can see and there's some things we can't see. And so for the things that we can't see, go ahead and book your appointment with Reverend Tiny. And we're closing out. We out this thing.
Power to the people.